Hi, everyone. Welcome to the session. I'm just waiting for people to sign up. We've got quite a few people registered. This is going to be a session on the Showbie basics with Abdul Chohan, that's myself. I'm going to just get the chat opened up as well. So kind of feel free to introduce yourselves and have a conversation. You can also use this place to kind of upload questions as well. I'm just waiting for a few more minutes, just a minute or so until people have kind of finished logging in, and then we can kind of make a start. So let's just see where we're up to with this. Yeah, and just can kind of still see the numbers going up. Just give me a few more seconds and then we'll make a start, because we've got quite a few things to kind of go through. Hola, Sarah from Lisbon. Nice to meet you. Hope you're well. And then we'll make a start. Hi, Pao. Nice to meet you as well. Let's just see if the numbers have kind of stopped adding, and then I'll make a start. Okay, so let's make a start. We've got quite a few people on the session just now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just cover, do a quick introduction. So this is the basic session rather than the advanced session. The advanced session is going to be at 4 o'clock, so feel free to join into that if you want to. So my name's Abdul. I'm from ThinkSimple Limited. I kind of work with Showbie and the Socrative teams. I work with school leaders and school organizations around the world. I kind of work with making sure that technology is being used effectively, that it kind of has a return on investment in terms of time efficiencies, cost efficiencies, and people development as well. That's my email at the bottom left, and it's also got my Twitter feed on there as well. So feel free to kind of get back in touch afterwards as well if there's anything else that you kind of want to know about this. So this particular session is very much about the basics. We're going to cover just literally what Showbie actually does. We're going to kind of look at some very simple approaches. It will be hands-on as well. So certainly worthwhile kind of having either a browser or the iPad app for Showbie with you. You can use the iPhone app as well, but it is limited. And there are some differences between the browser and the iPad app, right, which we'll kind of look at as well. So what are we going to be doing? These are the kind of, this is the course outline. This is what we're going to be looking at. We've got just around 45 minutes to kind of get all these things in. And I'm hoping to kind of leave some time at the end for some questions, and also for some times to do a little bit of a webinar survey as well. So I'll post the link right at the end. Once you've completed the webinar survey, the Showbie guys will send you a video link to this session, so that you can kind of, you know, sit back and kind of watch this again. So these are the features that we're going to kind of cover this session. So let's get stuck in with this. A couple of things. First and foremost, what I've just tapped on there is the Showbie app. So please be aware of that. And the way that we're going to do this is you're going to sign in as students. I will be the teacher, and then you will see it from a student perspective and also from the teacher perspective based on what's going on my screen. Now, in order to do this, the first thing to remember is, as students, you don't need to put in your email at any point in this as well. So even in the registration, if it asks for email, you do not put it in, because it's actually not needed. So there's two ways of kind of joining in. One is through the app. When you fire the app up for the first time, there's an option to sign up for free. If you go to the browser, if you go to showbie.com, you then end up, excuse me, you end up here, and you can see there's a sign up for free option as well. So you can certainly tap on that, and then you're able to kind of, you know, sign up as a student. If I tap on sign up for free here, you'll see that I'm presented with this screen. Now I have got a bit of a walkthrough for this, which if I will just share on my presentation. Oh, I've just realized you can't see my screen. Excuse me. So I've just tapped on Zoom. I'm going to start broadcast. Apologies for this. I'll start back again. Okay. So you should now be able to kind of see my screen. So let me just kind of go back again. Here we are. So this was the slides I was sharing earlier on. So those are my details on the bottom left. And the bit that we're going to kind of points that we're going to cover are these. Feel free to take screenshots and things like that if you want to. You're more than welcome. But we're going to kind of look at a variety of all these features from a basics perspective, and to kind of understand how Showbie can be effective, not just from a home and distance learning perspective, and because of the situation that we're in now, but actually beyond that, when we go back to schools, there are a lot of schools that use this on a day-to-day basis as well. Okay, so let's look at signing up. This is the Showbie app on the iPad. So you're more than welcome to use that. That's what I will be using as well. Or you can go to the browser, and if you go to the browser, just go back, you just type in showbie.com, and you will end up and be presented with this screen, and you can sign up for free. And it's the moment you tap on sign up for free on the app, if you go into it for the first time, or on the browser, you're going to be tapping on I'm a student. So the way that we're going to do this, if I just bring up another presentation that I had prepared earlier, because it's got a bit of a walkthrough in there. This is the screen that I'm looking for. So you're gonna sign up as a student. It's gonna ask you username or Google. Just choose username. Don't choose Google. You're not going to be using any emails, because this is a trial for you as students. So you get to see it from the student perspective and also from the teacher perspective. Now, for this screen, ignore the email option. Don't put any emails in. Put your first name in, put your last name in, make up a username. Now your username is typically anything that you want, but try and put some numbers and things in there. Showbie does have over 2 million registered users, so quite often that can be taken up, and it will tell you that this username has been taken. So it's just something that you just need to be wary about, and then make up your own password. You're getting to a point where it's going to ask you for a class code, and I want you to kind of wait there for me, because then I will share the class code with you, and I'll show you how that is created. So that's where you're trying to get to. One of the nice things about Showbie as well is that it's a great mechanism to kind of set up without there being technical kind of setup issues. Yeah. So a lot of countries and schools use this where they don't really want to rely on technicians, or frees up technicians to do other things. And we can kind of create classes and manage this ourselves without having big on-site school server setups and so on. It's also GDPR compliant. So, you know, if you're in Europe and that's a concern, then that's something that you can get a whole lot of information about from Showbie directly. Okay, so let's kind of go into this. If I just come out of here, I'm just gonna go to the Showbie app, which is here. And if I've just fired it up, I'm already logged in. So there's a couple of things that we kind of need to know about. These are classes that I set up a while back for other schools that I've been working with, and schools that are kind of now using this. So, and also on the top left, there's my initial. If I tap on that, you can see that I have the pro version of Showbie. Some of the features that we are using are the pro version. Some of them are from the free version. And again, on the showbie.com website, you can kind of see this under plans in terms of what the difference are between the two and so on. The one thing I am going to kind of talk about is managing your notifications. So that's why I've kind of brought you here. So look at this notification preferences. It's kind of important to understand this, because quite often, especially with class discussions and classes, if students are submitting things forwards and backwards, you can, if for example, you have like email switched on, it will start sending you an email every time a student has made a comment. And that might be a bit too much. So quite often you want to switch that off. It's nice that when it creates a class code, it can send me an email. So I always have that. and I can share that. That might be something that you might want to switch on. And you've also got kind of app notifications as well, which you can switch on and off. So mine are all pretty much off at the moment. So that's important to know. That the notifications here manages all your notifications for all your classes, but you can actually go individually into each classes, and you can go in and edit notifications for individual and specific classes as well. Okay, so let's go and do the first thing and set up a class. I'm going to tap on that spanner or wrench setting at the top. It's got an option for joining a new class. So I'm just going to tap on that. You can see it's immediately generated a code, but that code doesn't become active until I've actually hit the save button. So first of all, I need to give it a class. So I'm just going to call it Abdul's class, nice and easy. It keeps the classes in alphabetical order. So I'm kind of using my name, so it's right at the top. There is an option for parent access. So if I switch that on, I can kind of very easily show you how parents get involved with this, and that's part of this particular session. So we will look at that as well. Okay, once I hit the save button, my class is created. The name of the class is here. We are going to kind of look at class discussions as well, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Okay, but for a moment, let's just look at the assignment. It's asking me to load up an assignment, and if I tap on add an assignment and hit the spanner settings here, I've now got a variety of different options. So one thing that I can do is you can actually create folders. So for example, I might be, historically, I was a chemistry teacher. So I might say, for example, you know, atomic structure might be a topic that I'm doing. So I'm gonna have a folder that's like that. I'll make that red. So I've got a folder there now. I can add another folder, and this might be something where I kind of do all my formative assessments, and I've got another folder. I'm going to make that one green, and I can do that. And I can have different topics for different folders, and I can then have assignments within there. I can also have assignments that are not in folders as well. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm just going to tap on the wrench settings, tap on a new assignment, and I'm just going to call this hands-on with Showbie. Okay, I have got a bunch of options here to kind of look at scheduling, but that's part of the advanced class, so we're not going to look at that now. If I just hit the save icon at the top, I now have a class, and you should have been able to put the class code in, and you should have been able to join my class. So let me just kind of bring that class code up first of all. So it's U9VUA, that's the class code. Let me just go to Zoom and put this in as well. Okay, right. So here we are. Sorry guys, I can see people are kind of not seeing anything here. I wasn't sharing my screen. So let me just kind of put that in. What was that code again? U9VUA. So let's just put that in. U9VUA. I'm going to hit send. So that's the class code in case anybody was still signing in or anything like that. And you should be able to put that in, and it will stay in the chat. Let's see where we are here. Let's go back into our class here. Okay, so we've got people kind of joining. And you can see how kind of easy and simple it is to get a class set up and get students to join. It doesn't require a lot of technical thing. As long as you can get the code to your students and they put that in, you basically join in. Okay, so now let's look at communicating with the class and individual students as well. So what you'll see here is we have a whole area where as a teacher, I can see individual students, and I can connect with individual students. So I could tap on Damon, for example, and this workspace pops up, and I can see Damon's name at the top. And if I just go to write a comment, and I just write hello and post, that comment goes just to Damon and nobody else. Okay. Now, let's just go to shared items at the top. If I tap on shared items, what I kind of see here is the ability to communicate with the whole class. So here I can do, again, something really simple, type in hello, and that pops up for everyone in the class. You should all be able to see that. So that's really simple. Very, very easy to do. And from a home learning perspective can be pretty effective because I can communicate with individual students, or I can easily communicate with the whole class. But where this gets interesting is when I tap on the plus icon and I get a whole bunch of extra options. Now, this is different on the browser. So if you tap on the plus icon on the browser, because you're on a computer, a PC, or a laptop, or whatever it is, you're gonna kind of get access to folders and files and things like that on your computer. Because this is I'm using the app, I get a bunch of extra options like the camera and scan document features and so on, which we'll kind of explore in a moment. So I'm just gonna bring your attention to this voice note option here. And if I just tap on voice note, what you'll see is at the top, I've got a bunch of options around which I can kind of use my voice to be able to communicate with the whole class, all right? And that's kind of really nice because it can save me time. It's a lot more impactful than what it has been in the past. If I just hit the record button, hi everyone, welcome to the class. Please can you share with me the city that you're from and the country that you're from? Thank you. And I hit the post button, you'll see in the bottom right that this voice note is now uploading, and that's just there for everyone to see. So it can save significant amounts of time if this is used consistently across the school, even when schools are functioning normally. But certainly from a home learning perspective, it's significantly powerful because the students get to hear your voice, get to hear explanations. And by the way, feel free to kind of respond to that. What I would like you to do is if you can write a comment and just kind of write a comment back, and you'll see on the left-hand side, a couple of people have already done it. There's these blue lines and paper clips popping up, which I'll explain in a moment. One thing before I kind of move on, if I keep the voice note pressed and held, I do get this option to rename. So if I hit rename, I can go back and I can kind of delete this and put something like activity 1. And, you know, rather than just kind of having lots of voice notes, I can actually rename that. Now, what I can see here is the paperclip means that I'm getting a submission from students. That's what it's telling me. And the blue line tells me that actually the students have submitted something, but I, as a teacher, haven't checked it. Okay, so it tells me that there's something there waiting for me and I need to give feedback, or I need to look at it, and so on. So let me just start off at the top with Christina, and I can see Christina's just kind of, she said hello back. And if I tap the next student, Cheryl, I can kind of see this here. She's completed the activity. And if you notice, as I go down and tap on each student, the blue lines disappear. So these blue lines just tell me that there's I've responded to the student, or I've checked what they've done, and so on. And that's kind of really, really simple and easy to do. Okay, so very simple, very easy, and I can just kind of go through the students. And that what's nice about that is the response is pretty quick. It's kind of real time because, you know, the student's sending it to me now. And if it was a timetable kind of setup, we can kind of see that. And of course, if somebody sends me anything again, then of course, you know, I can kind of, it will get a new blue line will pop up as well. Okay, so that way it's kind of quite, you know, reactive and responsive, and you know, we can kind of go backwards and forwards with feedback as well. So that's kind of giving voice notes. So we can take this a little further as well with voice and with another feature. So if I go to plus at the top and tap on this, there is this option for scan document. Now, camera and scan documents are different. Camera is literally, it just fires up the camera. You can take a picture and you can submit it, and the students can annotate over the image and so on. Very, very easy to do. Scan document actually does try and scan document. So quite often where schools are using this across the organization, a lot of schools have kind of got over the issue of, you know, students still need to write with pen and paper, and final exams are pen to paper, for example. So that's still an issue. So if I tap scan document, this is a potential approach that people do use. So you can see it's looking for a document, and this is a student's book. If I just kind of hit the capture button, you can see that I can still move this about and reorganize it, but it's actually done a pretty good job. I can hit keep scan. I can turn over the next page because we're not finished. It's just saved it at the bottom. And if I just tap again, I get this. And this time it's just on this one page on the left-hand side. I can move that along if I want this kind of second page here as well. Very, very easy to do. And hit keep scan. And what you'll see is both scans are saved at the bottom, and I can carry on doing as many pages as I want. So if I've got booklets, documents, things like that, I can add as many as I want. And then on the bottom right-hand side, there's this save button. If I press the save button, what will now happen is something that's pretty nice, because it's going to ask me, do I want this to be kind of like, do I want this to be a separate individual items, so it will kind of put each page above one another, or I can add it as a document, which means it glues it together. If I just tap add as a document, you can see here at the bottom, the two images have been turned into PDF and they're being uploaded into shared items, which means all of you will be able to see that. Now, this is an approach for scanning work that's been done on documents, worksheets, and so on in school that some schools are using. And this kids just use the iPads in school. They sign into Showbie. They take the pictures of whatever the work that it is that they've done at the end of the session, and then they're able to then submit that, and it pops up to the teacher, and the teacher can then give feedback, annotate, and mark. So that's scanning document. It's a really nice feature. What you'll also see here is I've got this large preview. The three buttons on the top right-hand side allow me to kind of have large preview switched off in this case. So you can see it's just like a little icon, or I can switch it on and it comes up as a larger kind of icon. And I can swipe that as well and see the second page, just giving me a little bit of a preview. Now, what else can I do? I can tap on this. And I can kind of, you know, now begin to, if I want, I can use these tools at the top and begin to kind of annotate and give feedback and underline things and do a whole bunch of things like this. But where this gets interesting is I can also annotate this document with voice. So this option here, the kind of speech marks with the play button, I can tap somewhere on the document now. So if I just tap next to this word suspicious, hit record. A great piece of work. Can you write out 2 sentences with the word suspicious used correctly? I hit save, and that voice note has just kind of gone. And you can see that that's one voice note. I could add multiple voice notes in the document. Super fast, easy to give feedback, and so on. And again, if I keep this pressed, I can rename this as well. Now, there are schools that are kind of using Showbie effectively, and rather than having to figure out what am I going to write for the voice note each time, they've just come to the agreement that we're going to use emojis. And one school I know is using this steps icon. And when we kind of do that, very simply, students just know that that means next steps. What do I have to do next as well? I can tap on my name icon and it shrinks it down so it doesn't kind of obscure any other text or image and so on. And very simply, if I need to save, I can hit on the done icon here, and that will save that, and it will kind of put that there. Now, although you can't see the voice note here, if you were to open this up, you will be able to see the voice annotations as well. So that's kind of quite a useful approach to kind of looking at documentation and books and so on. You can kind of see a whole bunch of uses for this. I mean, I've just done it from a book, but you could have taken a photo of a science experiment and then annotate on top of that, or you know, contents and images from outside and so on. If you're using a PC or a laptop, then you may be able to do something around scanning documents, but you will probably have to connect a mobile phone or, you know, a small camera and then scan a document, take a photo of it rather than scan a document. Therefore, it's kind of, you're going to get differences between using the browser and using the iPad app. It is going to be different because obviously the camera is built in. Okay, so let's kind of have a look at this in a little bit more detail. If I just go back one step on this arrow. In fact, I'll tell you what, before I go and do that, let's just look at this plus icon again, because there's a couple of options I need to kind of share with you. One is from my photo library. It is possible for me to kind of apply that flipped learning approach. I mean, one of the things I'm kind of seeing is that rather than sending PowerPoints or just kind of slides to students, especially for home learning, it's much more powerful if the teacher has the voice overlaid on top and a bit of an explanation about the slides and so on. So that kind of requires screen recording features, and there's lots of third-party tools that are available that allow you to do that. On the iPad, it's built in. So if I just go to photos, this is like a tutorial that I did earlier on. I was just drawing and writing and using my voice. And the video it just then saves it as a video. And if I just hit done, you'll see that this movie clip then pops up and students can watch that as a video and then respond. So I'm kind of doing this flip learning approach where, you know, content and information can be sent to students beforehand and they can kind of watch, listen, and respond to that as and when they need to. So that's something to think about, because certainly with tools like Showbie, you can upload video content and material, and then that becomes available for students to be able to see. And again, you know, feel free to kind of, you know, have a look at that video. If I just hit rename, tutorial on multiplying by 11. Okay, so there we are. Just been able to rename something, and it's there and is easy to use. So if I tap on plus, that's from my photo library. It could be a file on your browser or on your laptop that you can pick up and then upload as well. The other thing that's worth noting is this file option here. So one thing that we are covering in this is kind of integration with Google Classroom and things like Office 365. If I just tap on file, this is something that you should know about, and I go to browse, the top left, and you'll see here that I've got OneDrive or access to Teams, and I've got Google Drive here as well. Now, they become available here once you've downloaded the app. If you're on a PC using a browser, then it's not needed because you can still add a file, but you just navigate your way to your Teams folder or your Google Drive folder, and you can pick up your content from there. On the iPad, you need to download the Google Drive app. You need to sign into it. You need to download the OneDrive app or Dropbox or whatever it is that you use. So you can pick up resources and content and you can share them on here very, very easily. So Showbie sits alongside Google and Office 365. And what a lot of schools do is they use the Google Classroom as a container, or Office 365 and Teams as a container where all your resources are there, videos, PowerPoints, content, and so on. But really, it's Showbie that is being used for assessment and feedback, certainly around the verbal kind of feedback and the verbal annotations and so on, which obviously makes life a lot easier. Okay, so that kind of covers the integration and the Google and the Office 365 element. Let's just go to this settings, the arrow at the back here. And if I just tap on the spanner icon here, again, and I go to class settings, one thing that I can do here is I can manage the notification preferences for this particular, for this particular class. Yeah, if I go to notification preferences, you see I've got the same options here, but now I'm just managing it for this class. So I can individually set notifications as well. Okay, so let's look at a couple of other things. If I just go to class members, the thing that's kind of quite useful here is I can see all the students here. Now, there is an option, but we will do this in the advanced class rather than here, for teachers to be added as well. And if I add teachers, then we can add multiple teachers or teaching assistants and so on, and they can kind of work with the class as well remotely. But what's nice here is if I tap on a student, there's two things that are really useful to know. One is I can change the student's password or reset their password. Fantastic from a distance learning perspective. Students forget their password. You don't need to refer to technicians and have complicated processes around changing passwords. You can just manage that yourself as a class teacher and get it changed. The parents option is again, worth knowing about. There are parents that are working, and if children are at home, they might still want to be able to see, you know, what are they actually doing? Are they being active? Can I support them in any way? And so on. And what this is now doing for Shannon's parents, it's just generated a unique code just for her parents. So parents can't see anybody else's, they can only see their students' work, and they'll be able to see feedback, the teacher's annotations, the teacher's voice feedback, and so on, which is quite powerful. You don't have to, it's not an all or nothing approach. So if I say invite parents, in this instance, it's inviting just Shannon's parents, but I can add multiple students at once as well. So I may be able to add 3 or 4 students. It might not be the whole class, or it might be the whole class. And it does this quite a neat thing where it just makes a printable handout, or a handout that I can email, and it kind of looks like this. So, you know, it's got the student's name, it's very personalized in the letter as well. It's got the unique code built in, and a little bit of instruction on how they can join, again, with the unique code built in there. So that kind of allows parents to have access as well, and for parents to kind of sign up and see, you know, how this works. Okay, let's just look at one other thing. If I just come out of here, we're gonna look at this class discussion element. If I just go to class discussion, you can see by default it's paused. That means the students can't kind of communicate with one another. However, if, for example, in one of the activities I've said, you know, in the atomic structure activity, I might, in the atomic structure folder, one of the assignments I might set is to kind of discuss, you know, what happens to the size of the atom as you go down the periodic table, and why. And that might be something that I want the students to discuss. I just hit the allow students to post. So the moment I do that, I can just come here, and now it's literally like a class discussion. We can kind of post on here, and feel free to do that. And by the way, if there are questions that you might have, if you've put them in the chat room, I'll pick them up from there as well. If you want to put questions here, you are more than welcome to kind of post on here as well, and you'll kind of see how that works. It doesn't allow you to moderate before the student pops up. Okay, so I can't kind of see before students gonna pop up on there, but typically speaking, it's my class, it's the students I have on a day-to-day basis, and I could kind of know if the students put in appropriate stuff. I wouldn't recommend just leaving the discussions on, unless you know your class and that's something that you want to do on purpose, but typically you can pause this whenever you want. Also, the plus icon is there, so you can still kind of, you know, upload content and material. This is an augmented reality kind of video that I made not so long ago, just screen recorded it at the same time, and I can just kind of make that available. It's not a folder. No, this discussion is not a folder. It's kind of, it's part of our whole class. Okay, I can, when I want to, if I tap on the 3 dots at the top, I can clear all posts when our discussion's over and pause it, so then therefore it doesn't kind of become available anymore. In terms of it being available for different versions, Showbie does have, and you can get this on the showbie.com website. You'll see here that the basic edition, which is free, has some limitations on the voice notes and video clips and so on, but certainly a lot of the things that we've just talked about now, like class discussions, parents stuff, and co-teaching and class folders, these are part of the pro edition. So that's something that you might want to kind of think about as well. One thing I will say is, if I just go back to this presentation, one thing that it may be worthwhile kind of knowing about is that Showbie is kind of giving this free 5 Pro and Socrative Pro licenses as well. Socrative is a quizzing tool. It's kind of worthwhile looking at if you like to do quizzes and assessment for learning and so on, a formative assessment. You can set that up very, very easily. If you tap on that link, it will take you there. I can't put this link in the chat. They've done an update in Zoom, so the links don't work, or they don't even show up, right? So feel free to kind of just tap here and to be able to take that. And also, if I just tap on the webinar survey as well. So this survey is pretty useful because if you are a full school that is going down this route, you can request for a bespoke session, and we can kind of have a discussion-based session with your school and kind of look at the nitty-gritty of how to set it up and things that might be very specific for your school. But also when you've completed this webinar survey, you then get a link for the video from this session as well. So I'm just going to take this as well, and if I just hit copy and I just come back here and hit paste here and hit post, there we are. And yes, RLM, yeah, chemistry teacher, perfect, part of the team, absolutely correct. So you can kind of see, you know, how this works from a class discussion perspective as well. And quite often, when you've got students engaged in this way, you can kind of cover a heck of a lot of ground in terms of, you know, this kind of continuing discussions, continuing after classroom and after school as well. I think one thing to note as well is that, you know, if you are going to use tools like Showbie, it's important that whatever tools or platform you end up using, when schools resume some normality and you're kind of back in the classroom, you're still able to use those tools effectively. And this is something that Showbie does allow to happen, and kind of it's pretty effective in terms of schools that are kind of using this as well. Okay, if I just kind of come out of here and let's go back to our kind of checklist. So we've now kind of looked at setting up classes, okay? We've looked at communicating with the class and individual students. So we know how to do that because, you know, we get the blue lines popping up when students are responding back, but actually I can use the shared area to kind of communicate with the whole class. We've looked at class folders, and this is sometimes, again, if you're using this across the school, it's worthwhile having a discussion how you're going to use class folders. It might be different from an elementary school or primary school compared to a high school, but it can be effective in the way in which it's organized. And if you have a consistent approach across the school, that's usually quite useful, but can be have some discussions. Using voice annotations is really powerful. I have done some impact studies with different schools around the world. And one thing that we definitely see with voice annotations is it can certainly reduce the amount of workload for teachers, okay? And just being able to speak and explain something remotely when the students are not there in front of you is actually quite a powerful thing. Scan document feature, we've talked about that. Very easy to kind of get a hold of documents, turn them into PDF and make them such that you can annotate over them. And we've looked at, class discussions is on as well. We've looked at notifications from our class perspective, but also from an account perspective as well. And of course, we've looked at files and how we can kind of use that. It's not just Google Office 365. You can use kind of like Dropbox and other third-party tools as well to be able to put things into there. In the Showbie Advanced class, we will be looking at how we can kind of share into Showbie from anywhere. So Word documents, Excel files, you know, PowerPoints, Keynote, pages, numbers, all that kind of, all these variety of different kinds of tools and how we can share into Showbie as well. Flip learning, I think that's kind of really a worthwhile consideration, because if you can screen record video and you're able to record your voice over the top and explain and share that out, that's typically, you'd be doing that whole whiteboard thing where you can write, and you can see my 11 times tutorial that I did. You can very easily make that available. And of course, Showbie does have a feature, we'll look in the advanced session, that allows you to kind of, you know, make things go live at a particular time. So you could set everything up, have all the resources ready and say, right, Monday morning at 9 o'clock, this will be available for students, and it automatically launches for students. And of course, we've also looked at parent sign up as well. So that kind of covers the areas for Showbie Basic. I hope that has been useful. Let me just kind of go to the Zoom chat and see if there are any more questions here. Sorry, the class code is here. If I just copy and put that here, feel free, I'll keep the class running for a short while even after this, because I've got another webinar in a couple of minutes, which I will then kind of show. So you can still join the class. Sorry, Elsa, for being a bit fast, but hopefully when you complete the survey, you'll get the video and you should be able to then kind of, you know, slow it down or pause and stop and look at it again as well. Is there a teacher's whiteboard? Not in Showbie. You'd probably use a third-party tool to do that, and then you can import into Showbie. Abdul Chohan, Showbie can sync with Google Classroom, right? It can sync in that you can access all your files in Google Classroom from Showbie, okay? So that's something that you can do. It doesn't convert handwriting to text. Showbie does not do that. Again, there'll be third-party tools that allow you to do that. How do you link class discussions to a stimulus file, please? So if we just go to, I think this is a question that you're asking. So we're in our class discussions now. We've got students posting. You just literally tap on the plus icon and you pick your file from wherever you want. So if you've got a video, then you can kind of upload the video. If you wanna, if it's a worksheet or a document or anything else, that you can just upload that here and then ask a question around it, and that will then be your kind of stimulus for the discussion. Okay, how does this integrate best with Socrative Pro? We're going to do that in the advanced class, Rusa, but just to give you a quick kind of idea, if I just go into hands-on with Showbie, and if I just go to shared items and I tap on this plus icon here, here there is this quiz option, and this is where I can kind of launch a real-time quiz that will give data and will auto mark, and it will give reports and populate data as well. We'll be doing that in another session, or in the session at 4 o'clock. So feel free to kind of join that if need be. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop there. Let me just kind of, so my screen has been kind of, there we go. Kieran, I'm going to just leave the class open. So that's the code. U9VUA. Just feel free to join, and you'll be able to still be able to see the documents that have been shared, and I'll let you have you can have a play with that. I'll leave that running until a couple of minutes just before 4 o'clock. Okay. Sorry, that's 4 o'clock UK time. So these webinar timings, they're all available on the Showbie website. So feel free to kind of join if you feel that might be useful for you to see as well. Okay, guys, you can complete the survey link on discussions. Go to discussions, tap on that, and you can pick it up. I can't put the survey link here for some reason. The link doesn't show up, but you should be able to do that in the discussion. So just tap on the link and then just fill that out. Okay, guys, thank you very much. You are most welcome. Hope that was useful. Apologies if it was fast for some people, just kind of covering this up, but definitely do the survey, and please do get hold of the video link, and then you should be able to kind of slow it down and listen to it at your leisure. Thank you very much, guys. Speak soon. Stay safe.